Warm revolutionary greetings from Honoka'a on the big island of Hawaii. We are here to introduce episode number 28 of the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast. And this one is with our friend and comrade, Haki Shakur. We've been knowing Haki for about 10 years, I think, now already.
That's crazy. 10 years. And Ace has been able to speak with Haki on the critical social worker. So I was very grateful that he came on the Revolutionary Social Work podcast and I was able to be a part of that. So yeah, Haki Shakur, he's based in Richmond, Virginia, and he's a conscious new African citizen. He's also the national spokesman and minister of information for the August 3rd Collective. If you don't know what that is, it's a political and national liberation movement for Black people in the US. It's an organization within the New African Independent Movement. But he's a lot of things. He a big supporter of political prisoners, does a lot of work with political prisoners, and he's also an incredible historian. And I think that's what I appreciate about him. He has so much knowledge and insight about revolutionary movements, revolutionaries, that we learn a lot from him. So I hope you guys will too.
Yeah, and he's a friend of the Dr. Mutulu Shakur. And so any friend of the doctor is a friend of ours, of course. But no, it was a pleasure talking to Haki again, and I look forward to the next time. I hope you all enjoy this episode.
Yeah, peace.
Hey, listen, we got some things that we gotta discuss. How we can affect the system and make it better for us. But first, we gotta start with the man in the mirror. Open your third eye and the vision's gonna be much clearer. We are revolutionary. We are visionary. And we stand resolute on those who pollute the minds of many. Revolutionary. We are visionary. And we stand resolute on those who pollute the minds of many, y'all. This is the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast, y'all.
Right, all right. Welcome to another episode of the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast. I'm Ace. I'm here with Alicia, and we're happy to be joined by Haki Shakur this morning. How you doing? I guess it might be afternoon where you're at.
Yeah, it's like 2:30 now. Free to land, revolutionary greetings, and I'm happy to be back on with y'all, man.
Yeah, revolutionary greetings. It's always a good time when we get a conversation with you. So you're in Virginia, yeah?
Yes, that's where I'm located. Born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. That's the capital of Virginia. Yeah, been here my whole life.
Yeah, well, we'll get into Virginia a little bit a little bit later. Is it hot over there in the summer?
Man, yeah, it's hot right now. Like, it's been like a real hot heat wave going on in this region of the country. So yeah, it get real hot here in Virginia.
How
Yeah.
hot's hot?
Over the past week, everything been over 100. Heat index like 110, 115. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. I think a lot of that got to do with the, like what they say, the global warming and stuff like that. But we know that humans play a role in that. So I don't know. It's above than what we usually get though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting too, talking about that. We can get to that another time, but it's amazing how people in their own lifetimes, the climate changes and people still don't acknowledge what's happening. Because even where I grew up, it's when I go visit the family and whatever, it's super hot compared to what it was when I grew up. So
Yeah.
crazy. Well, for those of you that haven't tuned into a conversation between me and Haki before, and maybe you're not privy to political prisoners, Haki and I got together and connected based upon the Dr. Mutulu Shakur, probably like 10 years ago now. It was about 10 years ago now. Dr. Mutulu Shakur, Tupac's stepfather, he was in prison at the time, and he'd been in there for about 40 years, I think. And
Yep.
we were both working towards his release, which he thankfully was able to liberate himself and get out at the end, although he's transitioned on. So we might give a moment of respect to the doctor for just a second. So we'll give him just a quick moment of silence. But much respect to the Dr. Mutulu Shakur. But one thing that we don't realize sometimes in today's world, and it's even changed in the 10 years, right, since back then, because a lot of folks have been out and a lot of folks have transitioned on, have passed on. But there's still folks that are political prisoners today, yeah?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we got, like far as the Black liberation movement and things of that nature, we got like 3 specific individuals that everybody should know by now, that's haven't been liberated from prison. individuals like Jamil, Alameen, people know him as H. Rod Brown. You still got Mumia Abu Jamal, who's incarcerated. And then you got the third individual out of that trinity, which is Kamal Siddiqui, who's still incarcerated as well, former Black Panther Party member. And also, he's the father of Asada Shakur's daughter. Many people might not know that aspect of his situation as well as who he is as an individual. But there's plenty more political prisoners that people really don't, overstand or know who they are. But when we talking about that type of stuff, people tend to forget about the individuals who went to prison who was politicized behind the walls and things of that nature. So they tend to get left out a lot, you know what I'm saying, during these conversations because people are so used to the individuals that's kind of like more, known about who were freedom fighters before they went to prison and things of that nature. So they tend to like, overshadow the individuals who transform themselves within the walls. So it's to add them to the list will definitely take that number to extreme numbers of individuals who are still incarcerated and captured. Individuals who are actually, they're freedom fighters and stuff like that, who come under the George Jackson history and things of that nature, who continue to take up that torch and stuff like that, who come from prison organizations, because many people don't know about the Black liberation movements that established prison organizations. Because you had organizations like the New African Prison Organization, you have the BGF, the Black Guerrilla Family, that many people don't, leave out the conversation, but they were a radical revolutionary Black nationalist organization who has a lot of political prisoners as well. Because all those individuals, they come out of like the George Jackson legacy and stuff like that in California. So when we're talking about those individuals, man, that list is long from all across the country. In Indiana, you got an Indiana political struggle that's attached to that. Alabama, and many other places in the United States of America who are all connected through this, especially like Black August. When we're talking about Black August, that whole collective of individuals as well who actually are political prisoners as well today.
This is why I'm so grateful that you come on these podcasts and talk about it because there's plenty of people that care but just don't know,
Yes.
and so when we hear you talking, and we've heard you talking a lot about Shaka Shakur recently, and I think he got shipped from Virginia to Indiana, right?
In the reverse, from Indiana to Virginia.
Can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah, Shaka Shakur, man, he's an individual, man. He's very political astute. He's another individual that was revolutionized and politicized behind the wall. He was one of those main individuals that rose up during that period of time of the Indiana prisoners' struggle against the prison system back in like the 70s going into like the 80s. I would say mainly the 80s though, because you had individuals who started to go to prison during the 80s who actually transformed themselves as well and joined the Black liberation movement, the New African independence movement. So Shaka is an individual who came up under individuals out of that New African People's Prison Organization and things of that nature during the late 70s and the 80s, and the Black Liberation Army individuals who were captured and who started organizations and movements behind the wall across the country. So he comes under that political line, under the Black Liberation Army, the New African Prisoners Organization, Spear and Shield Collective. If people don't know anything about these organizations that I'm naming, you can go to the rebuildcollective.org website, and that website has that whole rundown and history of these organizations that I'm speaking upon right now. Rebuild Collective. That's an organization I'm working with as well to continue the legacy of these individuals as well. But Shaka was an individual who was politicized very early. He went to prison very early. I think his first arrest was like around 16 years old. By that time, he was already beginning to become politicized and things of that nature. So in the state of Indiana knew who he was. He was an individual that was going around the community, making change, politicizing the community, helping the youth, transforming these youth gang members into political individuals as well. So around that time, he started to be targeted like many other individuals in the struggle. So during that period of time through the 90s, he got out during that period of time and started to help the community again. But when he got out this time, they was targeting him a little bit more, and you know, they was very repressive with their attacks and things on him because he was in the community and he was becoming very popular. But around that time, a tragedy took place in his life. Uh, his um his son, his son was caught up in street politics and things of that nature, and his son was killed by another individual who was caught up in street politics. So around that time when his son got killed, and this is the only child, by the way, like he has no other kids. Like I think his son was like 18 or something like that when he was murdered and things of that nature. So this took a real heavy toll on the psychology of Shaka when he was out. So it was distracting him. The police wasn't doing too much, try to solve the case and things of that nature. So Shaka and the other political individuals of the community took it upon themselves to try to get his son's murder solved, you know what I'm saying, things of that nature. But during that period of time, he got very depressed. He was going through psychological issues and things of that nature because his child was gone. So, and plus he was up against like this stalking, this counterintelligence that the police of Indiana was running on him and the individuals in his community. So one day he kind of like snapped. And when he snapped, he was near some police officers and he fired, but he shot in the air. He didn't shoot at the police officer. So they locked Shaka up. They tried to say he committed attempted murder on a police officer, but he didn't shoot at the police officer. He shot in the air. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was killed. No things of that nature. This was in the early 2000s. So Shaka's been incarcerated. I say probably like 20. This probably be like the 23rd, 24th year since that incident. He's been incarcerated, but altogether he's been in prison for like 36 years. If you go back to his teenager years and things of that nature. Um, so yeah, his case has been, it's been a little bit under the wraps. People haven't, really paid too much attention to his case. It's not really known, except for individuals who are in the movement and things of that nature. But Shaka should have been came home. They gave him like 60 years. And that was just trumped up charges, you know what I'm saying, based on who he was. They didn't give him, well, the time they did give him for the original charge, he's done that time. So that's why we're advocating to try to get him out. It's like they just trying to hold him hostage because of his political work behind the walls, his agitation behind the walls. They don't like him. So he's been subject to, brutal beatdowns, psychological warfare, low intensity warfare running on his mind by the prison guards and by prisoners. They've used prisoners to try to kill him and things of that nature while he's been in there to try to shut his mouth. And they try to gag order him and things of that nature. So he's under extreme repression right now. So we're trying to get him back to Indiana or try to get him on a compassionate release because Shock also has health issues. He's been battling like this cancer thing that he got going on. He got like hypertension and things of that nature. And he's just going through like a real tough time mentally. So he's going through like mental health issues at the moment as well and stuff like that. So he shouldn't be in Virginia. That's the thing I want people to understand. The only reason he's in Virginia because they had this slaverish contract between states called the Interstate Compact Contract. And if people don't know what that is, you can research that on Google. It's called the Interstate Compact Contract, where it's kind of like what they used to do in slavery, how they used to, trade enslaved individuals back and forth from the upper South to the deeper South and things of that nature illegally. Because this whole interstate compact contract is illegal. Like they don't have the right to move you to a place where you don't have family or support systems and things of that nature in place because his case didn't take place in Virginia. It took place in Indiana. So he has no business being here. So we're just trying to raise, awareness around all those issues to try to get this brother back home to his family.
So is that the main goal, is to get him out? Free
Yeah,
him?
the main goal is to get him out. But we're getting a lot of pushback when it comes to trying to like actually getting him fully released. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get him out on that compassionate release. But the most important thing that we can do in this moment is at least get him back to Indiana so he can be with his wife. Because he has a wife, family, and things of that nature that's back in Indiana who really doesn't have the, lifestyle to be traveling back and forth, between Indiana and Virginia and things of that nature. So the main goal right now is to get him out, but the most important thing we could do for him right now is to get him home.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and
So
I
he
think
can fight, so he can fight the case better because
With
the
support.
case is in Indiana. It's not in Virginia. You see what I'm saying? He hasn't been charged for anything pertaining to Virginia. His case is Indiana. So that right there is illegal. Cause why y'all got him in another state when his case is in y'all state? You see what I'm saying? So if people, if people read behind the lines in that, then they'll see the problem.
yeah, how you think people that are listening in or watch this later on, how you think that they could contribute or help in any way? Just becoming aware or
Yeah, he has an official website. It's shakashakur.org. I'm gonna say that one more time for the people. Shakashakur.org. This website was established by individuals back in Indiana at the Indianapolis Liberation Center. So that's kind of like his other biggest support system that's back in Indiana is this new community liberation center that's been set up in his name as well back in Indiana. So if you go to that website, right? On the website, it's a section on there called Take Action. And so when you go to the website, you hit that button, Take Action. And once you go to Take Action, it's just a whole list of things that you can do as an individual, a community, a movement to support his compassionate release or to get him back to Indiana. He has a petition on there that we're trying to bring awareness to. He has a digitalized letter writing thing that's set up on there as well, where you could just write the letter right there. You ain't got to mail it in. You could just write to, it's already formatted to where you just sign your signature and the letter and things of that nature will go to the governor, will go to the prosecution office and all these things automatically. You just hit the button. And then they got where where the donations are set up, where you could donate to his legal fees, his lawyers, and things of that nature, so we can get better, legal team in place as well. Because we done had several setbacks when it comes to his legal team and things of that nature, where individuals just exploiting him because of who he was and things of that nature, but not really getting no progress in his case and things of that nature. So right now we're trying to reestablish his legal team. So just in case he do get shipped back to Indiana, you know what I'm saying? We can have a legal team already set up here in Virginia right now, ready to go, so he can fight his case when he get back. But go to that website, shakashakur.org, hit the Take Action button, and get involved with the Shaka Shakur Freedom Campaign.
Like on top of the psychological warfare that happens inside, I just don't know if we truly empathize with if someone is removed from their community and then taken away to a different state and the family can't even visit. I mean, the psychology of that too is huge. I just don't yeah. I'm so glad that you brought that to the forefront because I think that's a huge part. If we can't get him out, bringing him back to his family to support him through this in
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because this the thing with prisoners that people don't get is that psychological effect. Your mental health, your holistic health that you can't get behind the walls and things of that nature because they're intentionally trying to break you, mentally and things of that nature, especially if they don't like you, if you're a politicized person, or if they deem you as a threat, or if they see you as a person that's an agitator, or you're a person that's just too political for the other prisoners. They don't want you around the other prisoners, so they're going to use all type of brutal, repressive tactics against you to try to break you mentally. And like you just said, and people got to look at it through this reality is that's kidnapping. You know what I'm saying? If you think about it on a larger scale, like if you're thinking about it on a common sense level, what they did to Shaka and what they're doing to other prisoners, that's kidnapping because, you're not getting their consent to be transferred across state lines and things of that nature, the due process. So Shaka's case is a prime example of how prisoners don't get that due process as human beings. So it's basically treating you like you're not a human being. You're not getting the right, due process on these matters. You know what I'm saying? If people come to you and be like, do you want to get shipped or do you want to stay here and things? No, they skip that whole process and just swap you out and ship you out based on this interstate compact contract, which is nothing but a 21st century slave contract like they did our ancestors with the Fugitive Slave Act back in the days and things of nature. So you see how the system is still the same, modernized. That's it.
That's a good way to put it. It's still the same, but it's modernized. And I think it all ties into what we've been trying to talk about with revolutionary social work. We've been trying, one of our biggest goals is reconnection. We feel like that's why people get addicted. That's why people get into violence. That's why all kinds of things, right? A lot of the things that ail us as
Right.
individuals, as a society. And you look at like if we really wanted to rehabilitate, if we want to use that word, rehabilitate or help somebody become what we need them to be in society or whatever we're saying. You would want them to be reconnected, right? You'd want them to be healthy. You'd want them to be connected with their family. You'd want them, and in order to do that, they'd need sunlight and maybe some connection with nature and stuff like that. And when you look at prison or jail, it's the exact opposite of that. Even I've only had little stints in there, but man, they treat you, like you said, not a human being. And mine was only a little stint. So, I mean, even on the level, but you need something, you ask for something, they treat you like you're absolutely like you're no less than a voice, if you know what I'm saying. And so if you think about like our goals as in the jails, the prison system, it's the exact opposite of what it ought to be if, we're truly trying to help folks or trying to do some kind of rehabilitation and whatnot. And I think the other side of it too is it's important that I think a lot of folks don't realize is the tactics that many of the things that you've already talked about, like the levels that they still go to repress somebody that is speaking up politically or organizing politically behind bars and even if you're not, the things the levels that they still go to disrupt communication. And all
disrupt
that
the communication.
Mm.
I'm glad you brought it up because that's another element too that people gotta do their research on when it comes to the prison struggle is this thing called the
This is
SHU,
ours?
solitary confinement, where they put individuals in solitary confinement for horrific time periods, like 24 hours. You're locked down from like 23 to 24 hours a day in this system. In this part of this prisons across the country called the SHU, or the security housing unit, or the security housing unit, or the and things of that nature. It's called the SHU. It's called the SHU. And so many individuals have been subjected to the SHU, solitary confinement, where people have been gone insane because you don't have, like you just said, they don't have no sunlight, they don't have no access to their medication. Most of the time, they don't even get fed. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. And when they do get fed, they give them horrific food, and then they put things in the food to try to poison you, kill you, and things of that nature. And Shaka, he's one of those individuals that spent tremendous time in the SHU. So people, when we're talking about political prisoners, prisoners of war, you got to go back and do a research on what we know as solitary confinement and SHU. In many of these states, they refuse to eradicate the SHU, to abolish the SHU. So that's another part of the struggle that we got to bring awareness to, is abolishing the SHU, because that is inhumane. It violates your human rights. It murders people and things of that nature. So by the time they get back in society, man, they ain't been rehabilitated. They sick, even sicker, because they done been through this whole systematic system of breaking you mentally.
Yeah. And the amount of political prisoners that have come out and then they have cancer. They have all of these
Yes.
long-term terminal illnesses, and then shortly after their release, they die.
Yes.
And this is
which is what happened to, both of my closest comrades behind
Yeah.
bars would have been the Dr. Matulu Shakur and Delbert Africa.
Exactly.
Mhm.
People that I felt like had more than I could even put into words to contribute and everything like that. And it seemed like it was very deliberate that they waited until the very last moment and then they said, okay,
Yeah.
now that, you are at
And all those individuals you named, they all have experienced time in solitary confinement. So that led to many of their health issues. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that nature. And then the period of time of them being incarcerated in the SHU, and after that, man, the health just started to collapse.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get the proper treatment while they were behind the wall. So it's like when they get out, they're not going to be able to live that long because the treatment they're going to get is a little bit too late. and things of that nature. So it's just a very sad, terroristic thing.
Yeah, when you think about what they needed that whole time was some sunlight and some community, and you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
just
and some medical
basic
care.
holistic healing. The natural things we get from nature. They were deprived of that.
Yep. And I think also we're desensitized to what happens behind those bars. And because some people just don't know and haven't heard these things and don't realize what's happening and maybe have a naive perspective on what the justice system is for and how it treats people less than human, much less than
Right.
human. But also, I just think some people are desensitized to these things and maybe just don't fully empathize with people are going through this every day in solitary confinement, not having the food they need, not having access to healthcare they need, not having connection they need. And I don't really know exactly what it is and how we become desensitized. I think we've talked about this before with war and things and the violence we hear in the media and it just over and over again. But it's a problem because if we're desensitized to it, then we're not going to act. And I think that's an intentional
Right.
part of it because then there's no action behind.
It's more than
You-
desensitized. It's behind the veil. Like people don't
Mm.
even have any. I mean, they don't even have anything to be desensitized to.
Yes.
In some sense,
Like
you know
it's
what I'm saying?
hidden.
Like they don't even know. And you think about the modern day American, this captivated mind. You're captivated by so many things, by whatever's on your phone, by
Mm.
whatever. There's a million different things that your mind is by politics, captivated by politics,
Exactly.
by all the shows on Netflix, by everything else. You're captivated all the time. And
Right.
so we
It's what I call the biggest technological mass distraction ever.
Mm. I
You
like
know what I'm
that.
saying? Like
Yep.
that's the era we live in now. Like they figured out because people got to realize this. When we talking about revolution, revolution. I'm gonna just use that terminology. When we talking about revolution, people think revolution is just on one side of the coin. That the opposite can't revolutionize things that they're doing, even though they are the oppressors. No, the oppressors, they got to keep revolutionizing their tactics and strategies to stay in control, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
against the revolution. You know what I'm saying? That's how deep it is. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. So it's like, I always tell people the counterintelligence program is revolutionary. You know what I'm saying? Because they're continuing to evolve their strategies, their technology, their ways of oppressing you, their ways of colonizing you to keep you controlled and things of that nature so they can stay on top and keep doing the repressive, brutal, genocides on our people that they can. It's revolutionary. We got to start looking at it through that lens scientifically. Is that people got to stop thinking revolution is only one thing. It's coming from the good guys. You know what I'm saying? The left, the revolution. No, you got to look at it from the oppressors' perspective as well. Because how you think they've been on top this long? They're out organizing us. They're revolutionizing their brutal tactics constantly.
And I think we got to stop looking at it as that it's Democrat or Republican, left, right? Like they're two sides of the same coin oftentimes. And so if we pinpoint one against the other, we miss the point because
Right.
they're all on top,
Exactly.
We're down here. So yeah.
Well, I think this is a good time. Let's do a little educational segment because, I think a lot of folks are completely unaware of what we're talking about probably. So you talk about COINTELPRO, I think what we're talking about 60s, 70s counterintelligence program by American intelligence, FBI, CIA involved. And they went to great lengths in their tactics. Like I think most people are familiar with would obviously be like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And they would send him letters and other people letters that were fake that would get into their mind psychologically, even encouraging him to kill himself and things like that.
Yes.
Then, right, you could take that to like the Black Panthers or the Black Liberation Army and things like that. And they were doing the same things there, getting people to argue and fight amongst each other by sending,
Yes.
It's the days of where communication was a bit different, obviously. And so,
Right.
they were disrupting and causing conflict all the time and paranoia and all kinds of things. And then maybe you can add to that, Haki, but I think that also the next segment is, you're talking about how they've revolutionized it. If they was doing that then, think about 40 years 40 plus years of them revolutionizing those systems. Like they know exactly what they're doing, and they know, their tactics are probably even beyond our own understanding in some
Right.
ways.
Yeah, man. Like, I would tell people this, like, we can take COINTELPRO all the way back to Marcus Garvey movement, because he's one of those first individuals that J. Edgar Hoover, when he first joined the FBI, this was like the first individual that he had this whole deep, like, like it's personal. Like, I want this guy removed, you know what I'm saying? At all means, by any means necessary. So they went after him, and tried to say he committed fraud. So he got locked up under some false, trumped up fraud charges. You know what I'm saying? That kind of like took the UNIA and his whole movement down. Because once he went to the Atlanta penitentiary and they was targeting him and he had to do this time for the feds, by the time he got out, they deported him. Same thing you got going on today. Mass deportations of people they don't like. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. So I'll take COINTELPRO all the way back to the 1900s, 1920s with Marcus Garvey and them. And like you said, all the way up until like the 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s, it was brutal what COINTELPRO was doing to these organizations and individuals. Geronimo Pratt, he's a prime example of an individual that fell victim to the COINTELPRO system and did over almost 30 years in the penitentiary for a murder that he didn't even commit. He was in a whole nother state when they say he committed this murder. And he sat in prison, and they knew that he didn't do the murder. And he suffered for that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, solitary confinement for over 30-some years. So taking it up to modern day time, you know what I'm saying? Like, people think COINTELPRO don't exist no more. And I tell people, you'll be a fool to think that COINTELPRO don't exist when they got us more divided today, even more than back then. Because you got to think about, if we go back to the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, look how everybody was so unified. I don't care what movement you was a part of. You know what I'm saying? Whether you was with the Native Indigenous movement, what we like to say the white revolutionary comrades, their movements, the Chicano movements, the New African movement. Look how unified all these movements were across the board. Even with Frank Hampton with the Rainbow Coalition, look how they were unified beyond, race and things of that nature. And they was getting stuff done. But if you look at the movements today, everybody's doing their own thing, not even trying to unify. Because these movements are being more infiltrated faster because, like you said, they modernize the technology. They modernize the counterintelligence. We like you said, we're 50 to 60, 40 years later. And look at we got AI. So imagine how dangerous that technology is to any type of national liberation movement or any liberation movement, period. Like, you could be, think you talking to somebody, you ain't even talking to, you talking to a machine.
Yep.
And stuff like that. These are things that we gotta, that's why you gotta be scientific. You gotta study these things. Because you're gonna be one of those victims that's gonna be behind the wall, just like these political prisoners screaming to get out. Even just by protesting. Look what they doing to protesters. Brutal repression. And this supposed to be your what? First Amendment, right? And they're brutalizing the youth, the protesters and things, snatching visas, deporting individuals, you know what I'm saying? Infiltrating their movements, turning them inward on each other. So, man, I tell people, man, we're in the most dangerous period of imperialism. This technological warfare, you know what I'm saying? And I hate to say it, but, right now we're being out-organized because they're 40 years ahead, like you said. We got to catch up. We're catching up right now.
Yep. And the power of social media right now. And then you add AI on top of that, and everyone is so distracted and captivated by social media. And then would not even think that there would be some sort of intentional manipulation of information in their
Right.
social media, in the algorithms this technological warfare is so deep, and we're so captivated.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with that too as well, I don't see enough people talking about it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know if people are so entrapped in the work that they're doing and things like that, because that can happen. I don't take that from no individual, because some people are over dedicated, so they'll struggle or so what they believe in, to the point that they forget about this COINTELPRO, this counterintelligence, this artificial intelligence that they have upgraded to destroy your movement
Mhm.
or to destroy you as an individual. You know what I'm saying? Like, I give you a prime example. Over the last, I would say the last 20 years, I'm gonna just use that as an estimate. Since my level of development and just being in the movement, period, man, I done seen so many people come and go. They either captured, they either dead, or they quit, or they been infiltrated, and it done damaged them psychologically. They dealing with psychological mental health issues right now. Like, so many individuals that I don't even know where half of them at right now, because that's how, like I said, they upgrade the brutal repression and the tactics to destroy you as an individual and as a movement. Like, man, so many people are gone. Don't even want to have nothing to do with liberation or none of that. So that's what I would tell the youth out there. Like, man, you gotta, once you get dedicated to the struggle, man, please do your due diligence on counterintelligence or counterinsurgency. That's another thing people don't talk about. You know what I'm saying? This whole counterinsurgency mask, disguise that they use to destroy you, and how they criminalize the national liberation movement, the national liberation struggle, or just like I said, activism or organizing. Man, it's on a whole nother level right now, and I don't want people to be victims.
Yeah, I've been reading up on the FBI and the CIA just, on the side over the last couple years or so. And like I encourage anybody to just go read about the history of of either of them, where there's lots of books on COINTELPRO and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot out there now.
But it's crazy. Like, I think it's beyond most people's wildest level of imagination. And I think even with what I know, it's still, I don't understand, what they've got going on today. And you think about, like I said, the level of power. Not only have they had the 40 years, but they have a lot of power. And another thing I'm surprised about is how much money they have at their disposal, how much cash.
Yeah.
So even if you're talking about like advertising or propping shit up on social media or something, they're going to be able to push the narrative almost always over any of us.
Right.
And then I get, once in a while, I'll have I get a lot of emails, people reaching out about the podcast or this or that. And then once in a while I have to check myself, like, what's this person's motive asking me all these questions and stuff? And it's hard, because how the hell are you really going to know if somebody's, reaching out to you in certain ways? But how easy it would be to like confuse me or make me think of something that I didn't, I was naive about and didn't take seriously, or didn't question enough. But another question I wanted to ask you is, like, when you look back to the youth, or back to the movements in past days, whether it's Fred Hampton or even if you're talking about Tupac, like, these guys are young, and they're the youth. Like, that's a youth to me. Even when I look at myself at that age, that's still in the youth. So it's one thing is sad that they never got to develop their consciousness and all of that further. But what's the deal with today? I feel like that everything is shifting to everybody that's older, and that it's very rare, at least, like publicized, or in the something that we can see. We don't see those 20-year-olds that are organized, in those 20, 21, 22. I mean, how old was Hampton? 21 or something when he was murdered?
21.
So, I mean, like, you don't see it so much. So are we, like, what's the word, infantilized? What's the word when people are made to be like children?
The first one you said sounds
Infantilized, whatever the word is.
Mhm.
It feels like our society today, the youth, is like not becoming grown until much later than they was not even a few decades ago. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I will go back to what she said. It's the social media.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's at such an intense level of counterintelligence. You know what I'm saying? To distract your mind, to indoctrinate I put it to you like that. It's this indoctrination in this neo-colonial era that we're living in. So I just feel like the youth is falling victim to neo-colonialism. And what that is just, it's another, like I said, it's that constant evolution of conquering, of imperialism, where they have heightened and, the levels that they'll go to indoctrinate the youth. Because let's think about it. Like you just said, Fred Hampton, all these individuals, they were so young. You know what I'm saying? COINTELPRO realized the revolution is in the hands of the youth. Huey P. Newton said that. And he was one of the individuals that was heavily, he had all this stuff ran on through the counterintelligence program. Indoctrinating him and getting him on drugs and all these types of things. And think about the era we're in now. We're in a drug-heavy era where the youth is on drugs, heavy. You got the opioid, epidemic that's been going on over the last 20 years. You know what I'm saying? And got worse. So I just feel like what she said, I think it's the social media being used in a heightened technological way to make sure the youth don't join the struggle, don't join the movement. If they can, it's like J. Edgar Hoover said, it's about neutralizing. So I just think we're in an era where the neutralizing is at a higher level because they know what if the youth get politicized, now you're going to have a whole more advanced movement of youth. If they get politicized, that's going to be worse than the Panthers. That's going to be worse than any of that. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said with Tupac, Tupac said that on his own mouth. The next generation is going to be worse than me. You see what I'm saying? So I just think they just, like you said, with the technology and things of that nature, I just think they 40 years ahead. So it's like, once they created social media, they seen how social media was more catered to the youth. Certain social media sites was more catered to the youth. So once the youth started to get on there, they're catered to everything the youth seeing and what the youth like, which is not positive.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's all about getting high, getting drunk, going to the clubs, violence, making you hate each other, fight each other, and stuff like that. So I just think it's one big neo thing era that we're living in when it comes to the COINTELPRO. They put social media together and they figured out like, hey, even the music, because we can't leave the music out either.
No.
They infiltrated that. You know what I'm saying? Because if you listen to the youth music now, it's nothing positive. There's no balance. There's no substance in it. And, the music biz is telling you, man, we'll make you a millionaire. But you can't talk about keep talking about drugs, murder, violence. And you notice they prop up the ones who don't talk about nothing with substance.
And
They're
so
millionaires now.
NBA, NFL, if you politicize that, you're shut down immediately.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? If you don't get with that program, you're not going to be successful in these industries. This is what they're telling you out the gate. Like, if you want to be Jay-Z, you want to be a billionaire, you know what I'm saying? All these puppets that they prop up, you know what I'm saying? Bourgeoisie cats, you know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. If you want to get to that level, this is what you got to do. And if you violate that, they're going to get rid of you. You know what I'm saying? So I just think the youth is up against a bigger war. You know what I'm saying? Because they're trying to get you at that age of Fred Hampton. That younger than him. They trying to get you at 15, 14, 16. We got to get them now. You know what I'm saying? We can't let these kids come up being politicized.
You see?
I just think that's the main agenda.
Yeah.
Ain't that what was in the J. Edgar Hoover said is the number one threat was the Black Messiah?
Yep. And that play is still being ran as well. You know what I'm saying? That's why I be trying to tell people as well. Because a lot of cats in these new organizations you're seeing, these new movements and things of that nature, these so-called popular social media activists, and all these individuals and stuff like that, man, a lot of those cats are being, they don't know they're being victims of the counterintelligence program.
Yeah.
Because right now, that individualistic leadership thing, I'm gonna tell you right now, that has been neutralized. You know what I'm saying? So like anybody you see today, they prop up and put in front of our people like, okay, here go your leader. You know what I'm saying? Stuff that they've been compromised. Because it's about money now. People making money off activism. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Like cats are getting checked for something that you know that is principle. Like if you really trying to free your people or you trying to free the community, why is that a job? You know what I'm saying? So cats taking checks just to talk, doing these social media, programs, and they got cultish followings. You know what I'm saying? So now you confused. Because now when they see cats who actually come from the movement, who are actually a part of the real movement, or the elders, I'll put the elders out there, even the elders, they ain't even paying attention to the elders no more. Who actually come from the Panthers, who come from the movement. Because now they follow some new young cat that figured out, man, I can become a millionaire just by talking this liberation or this activism talk. That's counterintelligence.
They got millions of followers, and then the youth see, okay, that's who I should be following.
That's who I should be following.
But they're the ones that compromise. I just want to point out like the image that I see all the time of these young kids, like 13, 14, 15, AirPods in, phones out. Like they'll be around each other, but everyone's just looking at the phone.
Looking at the, yeah.
Right? So how would anyone ever become awakened to what's actually happening around you when you're literally just plugged in and you can't even hear the outside world? Your AirPods are in. I always say, I think we've destroyed a whole generation with the technology we have now.
It did. And I tell people this too, man. The smartphones, that was intentional.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what nobody said. Like, they was developing this technology, like you said earlier, 40 years ago. People think this stuff new. It's not new. Them scientists, engineers and all these type of people that they got working for the United States government, they're in these labs developing these type of things because it boils down to what we all know, population control or people control. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So it's like, when we talking about depopulation, displacement, all these things, it's all a part of population control. So you don't think they wasn't 40 years ago thinking about, hey, we moving towards a more technological future. What are some devices or technology we can invent that we can still keep control of and control them with?
It's revolutionary what they did.
Bingo. It's revolutionary.
A lot of
They
people,
done gave you a smartphone and you think you're on top of the world because you got everything at your disposal. In your hand. But the whole time, the government, the scientists, all the COINTELPRO, whatever name they go by now, they got us controlled these devices. But it's like you said, they destroyed a whole generation of youth.
a lot of people always reference, the book 1984, where it's been a long time since I read it, but essentially the dude is looking into the future to 1984, but dude's got a camera in his apartment or wherever he lives and is watching him. And then the reality of what it came to be is you actually carry that thing around voluntary. I mean, it feels like voluntary, but you pretty much need the smartphone to do a lot of things in society today. So it is like almost mandatory.
It's that dependency.
Yeah.
Like they're developing the technology for you to be dependent on them. Because they know if you can be dependent on them, I got you controlled. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's man, like you said with that book 1984, I reference that to a lot of younger people now. I be like, if y'all want to take a little glimpse of that, go read the book 1984. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So
it's to the extreme
like you said,
levels. To the extreme levels, like, in that book too, I think was the Ministry of Information. They're rewriting the information as it comes out and rewriting, and that's literally what they do. Go look up something that you found provocative that's from a few years ago, and it's very likely that you can't find it on the internet unless you find it on like somebody's Facebook page or something. They wiped it from YouTube. They wiped it from everywhere. Something that makes a politician look bad or this or that. It'll be completely gone. And you think that the level that they do that. I think that if I would want people to get out of this conversation or this segment that we're having right here is that almost everything is infiltrated. Everything that you may not have thought about, whether it's the TV shows that you watch, the commercials that come on in between, the radio programs, they've been infiltrating all that shit for years. And then you take that to social media and you say, like Twitter or whatever it's called, X, Facebook, Instagram, all of those things. Those things are all heavily controlled and infiltrated on what and how things can be presented.
Yeah.
And it's almost exactly like they want them to be. So, like you mentioned, when somebody gets propped up and you see them, and even if they come from they come from like a resistant standpoint, they wouldn't let them be up there like that to that level and be propped up on the algorithm if they didn't want them to be. And so even I think things that stem towards resistance or, like counter to the system, oftentimes it is that to a degree, but it's very controlled and they're only allowed to say things from certain narratives or certain things. And so almost everything we're being completely hoodwinked on time and time and time over and over and over again. And I think especially the older generation, but a lot of people still have that thing where they think they see something in print or something or on their computer that it's real. And it's just, like I said, it's so highly controlled is that it's psychological warfare. Not, I mean, to the extreme towards activists and stuff, but the everyday Americans have psychological warfare put against them every single moment of their lives. Every time they're tuning in to something.
Yeah. Like just being under a capitalist system, period. People got to realize all these things are interconnected because it's a part of that oppressive machine. I like to say it's one big oppressive machine, and then you have various things, extensions of that machine, like capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Capitalism is the forefront of that imperialism, of what you're talking about right now. You know what I'm saying? Like with everyday working class, like you said, everyday working class, especially the communities that's, at the bottom of the totem, totem pole. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Think about the stuff they go through every day that's messing them up psychologically to survive. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So all these things are connected. It's not just being ran on revolutionary. You know what I'm saying? It's being ran on classes of people across the board. I don't care what background you come from. If you come from that working class, they running that own.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you bring this up a lot on your platforms. And I think, I can't remember, remind me of the context, but there's housing situations that you were talking about recently and sharing videos of just the way that housing is becoming for profit rather than it being just a human right to have housing.
Right.
All of that stuff.
Yeah, because they got that going on. Like I always try to tell people, they got these little terminologies to play with your psyche. You know what I'm saying? Like affordable housing, right? If you think of affordable housing, you're thinking of housing for everybody on every level of society. You know what I'm saying? Even the people who can't afford it. You know what I'm saying? If we're talking about collective equality and inclusion in the community, if we're talking about everybody, they keep putting this in front of your face, equal rights, this, equal that, equal opportunity, all these things. Okay, if you're saying that, right? Housing is the most important thing for human beings. You see what I'm saying? So why is that not the priority? Why are y'all not adhering to these terminologies? You say it's affordable. So if it's affordable, then the person that's on the bottom of the society that has nothing should have the opportunity to obtain that. If I'm homeless and you're talking about your government that's inclusive, and I should be able to get housing without issue, whether it's free or not. You see what I'm saying? You shouldn't want to see nobody homeless if you're a democratic government or a democratic society. But you got people, you're supposed to be the richest country in the world, but you got the highest homeless rate in the world. It's very contradictory. It's that biggest contradictory in history. You know what I'm saying? So, like with the housing thing, you know what I'm saying? We all know the history of housing, how racist it is. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to new African people, Chicano people, and our lower class, people across the board. I don't care what race you are. You know what I'm saying? It's just a whole systematic way of depriving the people on the bottom of the society. Housing. You know what I'm saying? And it's not going to change until it's revolutionized, until the revolution. Because they profit off it. It's profits over people for this government. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, when it should be in reverse, it should be people over profits. But that's not how this government is designed.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
It's horrific. It's inhumane.
Yeah. And this is a huge thing that within social work, I mean, a lot of social workers are fighting
Exactly.
for their community and individuals to get housing, but we're all fighting within the system that's corrupt, right? So we
Right.
just like run around like headless chickens trying to find someone housing. But like you
Right.
said, it's not going to change until we revolutionize the whole idea of housing as a human right. It's not going to
Yes.
change. And we just exhaust ourselves trying to work within this system that doesn't work.
Right.
Well, I think too, the reckoning that social
And
work,
no meaning to cut you off, but exactly, but that's why what y'all do is so important. You know what I'm saying, with this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Just continuing to educate people about social work. Man, social work is the most important work of any movement. It is the movement. If you think about it. You know what I'm saying? Because this is the work that is going to liberate communities, liberate people. You know what I'm saying? Change this system, change this society to how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be for the people, ran and controlled by the people. And that's what social work is.
Yep.
Giving the power to who, you know what I'm saying, desires that power, which is the people. You know what I'm saying? Not the government, not the state. You know what I'm saying? That's what people get confused at. You know what I'm saying? They think the state, just because they're the state, just because they're the government, we're supposed to adhere and follow everything they got going on with their governance. No, if your governance is violating our human rights, our basic necessities, housing, food, shelter, then you're not the right government. You know what I'm saying? You're not doing social work. You're against social work if you're running a government on that level. So that's why I commend what y'all doing. I commend, everybody that's doing this revolutionary social work, you know what I'm saying, on that level to bring the awareness to people that this is what work.
Yeah, you said it very well, and I think that's the reckoning that social work or social workers and social work as a collective got to have is this, being inside the inside of social work right now for the last 10 years or so. Social work largely lives inside the system. Social work
Exactly.
is the status quo. Social work, and I don't want to criticize any specific individual or anything like that, but social workers sometimes can't see what's right in front of our face. And
Exactly.
the systems that we're working for are just reinforcing the same things that we're supposed to be against in our, whether it's the code of ethics or, we have a
Yes.
revolutionary social work value system that we try to create. But it's important to be, to be in that nonpartisan stance, because when you get so partisan and you think that, like, okay, I'm not, just because I'm saying that critiquing Democrats does not mean that I'm for Donald Trump or something like that, which is
Right.
pretty much the conversation that's within social work at this point, is that you're either this or you're that. But I see them as maybe some differences, but two sides of the same coin, to whereas you think that, being anti-Trump or anti-Republican and just, like going like I hate to say it, but like a flock of sheep with the Democrats, is that you don't realize that you're perpetuating these same things over and over and over again, and you're contributing to them. And I think a good measure for everyone, and, people get mad at me for saying this kind of thing, but as soon as a movement that you're a part of gets picked up by all of the corporations and the Democrats, then you know
Yes.
that it ain't legitimate anymore in the way that it was, at least the way that it started or it originated.
Right.
And you got to think outside of that. We're not going to, vote, at least when we're saying like vote Democrat over Republican or whatever. We're not going to vote ourselves into these change that everybody seems to, like in social work, seems to think. And then I realize, so I work within the system, right? I'm a university professor, so I work within the system, but I do as much as I can to, operate outside of that status quo and resist that as much as possible. And I think social workers, you got to realize that even if you have the best of all intentions, you need to be very vigilant and self-reflective about where you're at and what you're doing, because you may well be trying to do something different, but you're working within a system that, and I think we talked about this last time, Haki, about like the Black community not trust in social workers because of the systems that they're in, whether that's child protection. And again, I'm not criticizing any individual or point. A lot of people have different things going on and are trying to do different things, but you have to be vigilant about realizing that you may be a part of a system, or you probably are a part of a system that's been oppressive in different ways for, since before many of us were even born. And so I
Right.
think we fail as social workers, as a collective, and many individuals are failing in that regard. And we're just blind to being a part of the very systems that, keep reinforcing the same shit that we are supposed to be against, or, standing for something that's different than that.
Yeah, and that's why it's such a key part of revolutionary social work is to revolutionize yourself first so that
Right.
you can do this work. Because if you never self-reflect and never look at your own values and biases and perspectives and worldview, then you are just going to keep perpetuating this system. And so that's why
Right.
it's such a it's the first part of revolutionary social work. You have got to look within to see what are you putting out into the world? Like, are you actually a part of, or are you fighting for the
Yeah.
people?
Exactly.
Got to.
That's what, like you said, that's one of the first sayings in the movement. You gotta revolutionize yourself and revolution mind. The first revolution takes place in the mind. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Gil Scott-Heron song. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta revolutionize your mind. Because if you don't, like you said, whether you're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, you like you said, you're just gonna carry on that tradition of the corruption. Helping the system continue to, keep people oppressed and things of that nature, and not uplifting the community and liberating the community. You just keeping them in the same cycle over and over again, from generation to generation. So yeah, you're right. Gotta revolutionize yourself before you go within the revolutionary social work.
Yep. Have to.
And like I said, the COINTELPRO and the powers that be, they've been revolutionizing themselves for, at least 40 years or more than that. Now,
Exactly.
when you talk about revolutionizing the mind, I mean, that's also something. It's the first step, but it's also the last step, right? Because it's
Right.
a never ending step.
Constant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's constant.
It's evolving all the time.
I think Protege said it well. Sometimes you can also be a slave to the things that you think you know. And so
Right.
you have to always be vigilant, because what you thought you knew yesterday, you may find out today or tomorrow that wasn't, that you weren't accurate. You may become disillusioned from.
Exactly.
Yeah. You got to be okay with being wrong, too.
Yes.
Because we're all going to be wrong at some point, but as long as you reflect on it and then you're open to new paths, I think that's the key.
Yeah, that's the part of your development.
Mm-hmm.
Self-consciousness and being, like I said, politicizing your mind. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. So it's like, you gotta understand that you're not always going to be right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a learning process of self-development.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you can't take it or get upset over it. It's a part of self-critiquing yourself, self-criticism, and things of that nature. If you're trying to, develop yourself and do this work.
I think too often too, we'll look at somebody and, because everything's recorded these days, or that you say, oh, look, they said this and they was wrong about this. Well, how could they ever have gotten to be right if they weren't wrong at some time? So like judging, it's the wrong way to judge somebody. If they was wrong yesterday, doesn't mean that they are not right today, or.
Right.
We get on that all the time.
Well, we're getting on a.
It's just crucial things when it comes to developing yourself. You know what I'm saying? As far as consciously, politically, socially, across the board. You got to go through the process. You can't skip it. And you know what I'm saying? And you can't get angry when people critique you.
Yeah.
That's another issue. A lot of people can't take self-criticism. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of this confusion and chaotic stuff going on now within the movement, all types of work across the board when we're talking about community, is that people, this is what I come to find out through my experience, too many people hate to be self-critiqued. You know what I'm saying? And that's an issue for me, because it goes to what you just said. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's not a bad thing to be wrong. It's about what you do after you understand that you're wrong, or you made a mistake. You get corrected. That's a part of development. It makes you better. You know what I'm saying? And the next time, you know what I'm saying, the people coming behind you, you know to correct thing to tell us. You know what I'm saying? But I just got a real issue with people who just can't take self-criticism. Because at the end of the day, what you in this for? This is to help you. It ain't to destroy you. It's not to look down on you. We ain't talking down on you, nothing like that. No, it's to make you better. You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have got to where I'm at politically, socially, and things of that nature. Once the elders told me that and taught me how to see that, you know what I'm saying? And man, that's been the greatest lesson I ever learned in the movement, is to always accept self-critique and critique yourself. You ain't gotta wait for nobody else. Critique yourself.
I'm so glad you said
That
that,
makes
actually.
you better.
Because I think people would probably look at you and think, well, I mean, you know so much, you have so much knowledge, you share so much wisdom, and think
Right.
that, and maybe shocked to think like that you accept criticism, so you welcome it. You welcome it, you know? And I think if anyone could take anything away from this podcast is you got to do that work and you got to open yourself up for criticism.
Right.
Mm.
You're not gonna grow. You're not gonna grow in the work you're doing if you don't. Because you, like you said, you're just gonna keep repeating that, and you're gonna aid the corruption. You're gonna aid the oppression. You're gonna aid the state. You're gonna aid the system and our annihilation, our genocide. You're gonna think you helping. You're gonna think you liberating, but you're not. You're just making it worse because you're not, like you said, you're not self-critiquing yourself. You're not looking inward.
Yeah, well, that ain't a virtue in today's society. You know what I'm saying? We got to remake. But we getting on time. But I thought I think a big part of what we look at revolutionary social work is education. And I think that we could do like I don't know what we call it, a flash session, but we could talk about a few of the political prisoners and things like that to make some clips out there to put that out there and plant some seeds for folks. And you mentioned some individuals I thought we could go through real quick, just because even like somebody start with Mumia Abu Jamal, Mumia Abu Jamal. And while he was front and center, I guess it's been a while now, maybe like the 90s during the big campaigns. He's been, I don't want to say forgotten about, because there's lots of people that remember him. What I mean by it's not out there front and center anymore. And I think that a lot of youngsters or, even people my age might see a Mumia sticker and not know. It might ring a bell like, I should know Mumia, but they don't.
Right.
And so, Mumia Abu Jamal, arrested for killing a cop for allegedly killing a cop in the 80s? Was it the early 80s?
I think it's like early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah, in Philadelphia. And if you have to do the research on your own, because we don't have the space to tell you everything you need to know. But there's several books out there. There's what's the one film? We have a copy of it somewhere. But there's a couple films. Look up Mumia Abu Jamal. There's a couple films on him and his situation.
Yeah, it'll all pop up.
And what I would say, and you speak on it a little further on who he is. What I would say is that I don't know exactly what happened on that night, but I know that what they say happened is not what happened. You know what I'm saying? And so, and obviously, with the big following, the big movement, and I don't mean like a movement of just like people organizing. I mean, it is that, but like there's a lot of love out there for Mumia Abu Jamal and the MOVE organization, and a lot of love that's circulating. And he's one of the deepest and highest intellectuals. Even if you look at the work that he did before he was incarcerated, like he's like a super intellectual, actually, I would say.
Man.
And so it seems very deliberate, that they've done to him. And he's at this point, I don't know what else, he's got to be getting on like 80 or something. And he's been sick for a while with various things. You mind talking about him just a little bit, Mumia Abu Jamal?
Yeah, man. Like you said, one of the greatest intellectuals to come out that movement, out that Panther movement, out of that MOVE organization and things of that nature, Philadelphia, and what they had going on in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, and things of that nature with the movement. But Mumia Abu Jamal, people got to realize this is during the height of COINTELPRO. So like you said, back then, like you said, we didn't have this technology, this communication that we got today to share these things on these situations and these incidents. What they told us is what people believe, and people forget how racist the 80s were. I don't know how people overlook that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you barely removed from the 70s and the 60s. And you know how racist that time period was. But when we get to the 80s, man, that's some of the most racist times ever. The KKK was still in effect. You know what I'm saying? People forget these things. You know what I'm saying? So, and at that point in time, the judicial system, the most important things, white supremacists, white nationalists, and high seats of the government, of the judicial system. You know what I'm saying? So around that time, it's like what you just said. They knew who Mumia was. They knew his intellectual capacity. They knew his effect on the movement. So, to me personally, COINTELPRO, J. Edgar Hoover, his cronies and all of them, they seen, and people got to realize this, man, the FBI, CIA, COINTELPRO, they have personal behavior analysis units that only sit behind their desk and evaluate individuals, study individuals, do this whole thing of analysis on individuals, their behavior, who they are, what could they do, what could be the effect of this individual in the future. They ran that on Mumia. That's why they had to take him out the community. It's like, no, we can't leave no individual with this type of intelligence in the community. Nah. And the proof of that is the work he's been doing behind the wall with prison radio. Listen to his radio commentary. This brother is on another level. You know what I'm saying? I'm still learning from him. Like, just going back, listening to the things that he made back then up to now that I missed is heightening my education level.
You got one of the
So it's like, man, like with this new, like I said, with the new generation, he might not be that much, popular. You know what I'm saying? This is why we got to do the job of keeping political prisoners' names out there to make sure they don't get lost. Because these new generations need to learn from Mumia, or you're going to become Mumia. Because some of y'all are developing at a high level. I'm talking about you. A lot of y'all are developing on a fast rate, intelligent-wise. And if you don't study Mumia's case, you're going to become Mumia. So it's like, man, we definitely got to keep his name out there and continue to push to get this man free. Period. So I advise anybody who watches this podcast, please do your work on Mumia Abu-Jamal. He should have been home. That alleged murder of the police officer, they have no evidence that he committed that. They went off of a compromised eyewitness statement. Like I said, individuals who've been used by the FBI, informants, provocateurs, agents, who were paid to get on the stand and say he did it. And they know he didn't do it. Like you said, that's when Mutulu, that's how Mutulu went to prison. Yeah. He went to prison for a cat he didn't even know. They got on the stand and said, yeah, he did it. Yeah, he was behind it. This, that, and third. He plotted it. He plotted all the way. Mutulu didn't even know this guy. He was just an individual that they took up off the street who had information to try to get himself out of trouble.
In the case of Mumia, wasn't it there was a couple of prostitutes, right? And they were paying them, and she had like dozens of charges, and then they released them. And
she had charges.
She tried to recant that stuff later on.
Yep. And then they tried to come back years later to recant it, but they already did the damage. Because now we up against a system that's, like I said, is modernized. So it's like, they don't care what you talking about. You know what I mean? You coming back now? Yeah, right.
You already said it.
And if
you already said it now. Understand.
And if you look at how dangerous they were at that time, there's a couple of things that can kind of contextualize it. Is that, like we mentioned, his ties to Mumia's ties to the MOVE organization. Well, the MOVE organization had been successful at a couple of things. One thing, as a group, they had tied up the whole judicial system by little petty charges and not accepting them. And so they had like backed it up completely fucked it up.
Yep.
Completely. But then also the leader, John Africa, he was indicted on federal charges. It was supposed to be a open shut case. He represented himself and was acquitted of it. And then Mumia wanted John Africa to be his lawyer, and they wouldn't let him.
He did.
And so he was disruptive. And Mumia was sentenced, was found guilty and sentenced without even being in the courtroom in the end,
Yeah.
without even having his presence there because they deemed him disruptive because he was trying to get John Africa as his lawyer. And so you think they were obviously uh, afraid of, I don't know if you
Yeah.
want to use the word afraid, but they were
Yeah, they were.
obviously
Yeah.
afraid of what they had going on. And they did everything that they could, even like if you look at the Move 9, a couple of them died in prison.
Yes.
All of them are out either now or passed on by now. But for one person that was killed, they charged all 9 of them because they said what they said, they charged them as a family,
Yeah.
which seems
They
really
charged them as a family.
which seems really weird and unconstitutional in every way, shape, and form. But they really didn't. Again, it's one of those things they didn't really have much evidence, so they did
No.
everything that they could to keep those folks away for
Especially, after all the warfare things that they did to them, like people gotta realize the move was kind of like the first. I ain't gonna say the first, but in that recent time, in that time period, they dropped a bomb on them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like that was unheard of. You know what I mean? In the 80s, like your own government, your own so-called government. You know what I mean? Just drop a bomb on you.
People gotta watch.
I don't think people understand that.
The
Go-
Move
you
You
bomb.
know what I'm saying? Like that is what.
That was one of the biggest things that revolutionized me. I'd seen
Yes.
when I was working with Dr. Matulu Shakur, so
Right.
I'm obviously open, but still I would be on Facebook. Facebook was different back then, but the Move women kept coming up on there, and I was so dismissive of them. I was like, oh, I don't got time for this, like whatever.
Yeah.
And then something spurred me, and I looked them up on YouTube, and I watched some old Frontline documentary on like the Move bombing of West Philly, and I was like,
Yes.
what the, and that's when I wrote Delbert Africa after I saw him getting beat up by the police.
Yeah.
But they also, anybody should look it up. I try to put it in every class that I have that I can.
Right.
But it's still one of those things that's esoteric for people. People like have trouble, getting in and into it and understanding and empathizing with them for some reason. But that's
Right.
crazy. Like we keep mentioning John Africa, but they literally dropped a bomb on his house and burned him to death.
Yep.
Children in there too.
Yeah, he was a victim.
Yeah.
So and he was
And it was I think it was like some babies.
yeah, babies was in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of the things that are popular today, even like in white communities and stuff, like we're at this house right now, like composting and back to nature type of stuff.
Mhm.
That was John
Homework.
Africa. That's what the kind of stuff
Yes.
John Africa was for. And they made him out like to be an animal. They dehumanized him because of that
Yes.
stuff back then. And now all that stuff is becoming, popular again.
It's a thing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all that.
Raw
Like,
food, all of that.
Yeah, all that. You know what I mean? Like dealing with nature,
Mhm.
getting back to holistic healing, all these type of things. It's popular now. But back then, it was deemed as
Crazy.
that ain't the thing. You know what I mean? Like we gotta get rid of that.
Yeah.
And we know why that was. Because that went against the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Still happening now too. Whole nother
Yep.
Yeah.
conversation. So, let's get some of these other folks in that make sure we talk about them real quick. H. Rap Brown, what's his name now? Jameen Alameen? Is that right?
Yeah, Jamil, Alameen, yep.
Yeah, I wrote him a while back because I had come across him his early days, with what was he with SNCC and the
Yeah.
Students for Nonviolent Coordination Committee or whatever.
Yeah,
And,
that's it.
some Black Panther involvement. But he got a lot of great videos if anybody wants to go on YouTube and search H. Rap Brown, like I think on the Dick Cavett show, that old
Yep.
talk show back in the day. But he comes across as a super intellectual from my perspective, like being that young and talking about things in such a way. I mean, I don't know exactly everything, all the ins and outs and details of his case, but I remember taking a nice glimpse at it. And what doesn't match up to me again is like the intellectual level that he was operating in, and then what they said he did. It doesn't really align to me. It doesn't make sense. And he had
It
a
don't.
friend write me back and said a comrade in prison and said he's going blind in
Yes.
prison at this point. So what else could we know about
Yeah,
him?
and why not?
What else should we know about him?
Yeah, as far as the update on Jamil Alameen, H. Rap Brown is that his son, and y'all can find him on social media. You know what I'm saying? His son, because his son been doing a lot of heavy lifting on that work, trying to get him out of prison. So they're working on this movie documentary right now that they're trying to get everybody to support. I think the website is I think it's what happened to rap. If I'm not mistaken, I have to go back and look, but that was the most recent one. What happened to rap.com. So I seen this son the other day. The update is that they're trying to say he don't have much time left. So they're trying to get him out on a compassionate release because the cancer and all these type of things is terminal now. You know what I'm saying? So they giving him months. I think his son said like eight or 9 months left. So they're just trying to get him on to the family at this point. Because everything else, don't even matter. Because he's so sick. And like you said, he done went blind and things of that nature. So I would just tell people to go online, find out how you can help get him home for a compassionate release and support the documentary movie that they got coming up. Because I think the proceeds or something to that, the donations are helping with the case to try to get him home. You know what I'm saying? For the last couple of months of his life. You know what I'm saying? Because at this point, his son is like his terminal.
See, same story again.
Yeah,
Terminal illness.
same story. And the same thing with his case, like you said. Same thing with his case. The eyewitnesses and things of that nature, they never saw him do it. They just went off his height. Because it was a tall individual that's supposed to have shot these police officers. But you never seen him do it, though. And then years later, like we just said a few minutes ago, an individual who's already incarcerated then came out and said he was the trigger man. He did it.
Yeah.
He admitted it in front of the, I think it's the grand jury. He said, I did it. H-Rap was nowhere near the scene. And they still ignoring this guy's confession.
Mm-hmm.
And this was some years ago when dude came out. So it's years done passed now when the cancer done got worse and all these type of things. And dude then came out and said, no, y'all got an innocent man in prison. I did that. So it's like it goes again, shows again. That this system, they're not going to let a political prisoner out that they hate so much until he's ready to go. You done had judges tell political, like the judge in Mutulu case, he told Mutulu, we not releasing you until you about to die. You not this racist judge has been on the seat for decades, still on the seat. And he was in control of Mutulu's case. Every time Mutulu went up for parole, they made sure it went to the same judge. And the judge that hated his gut. Like, no, I'm not letting you out until you ready to die. And when he was, terminal, the judge told him, like, yeah, I'll release him now, he about to die. Same thing with H-Rap. Going on right now.
Yeah, it's messed up. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
And I'll be surprised, to be honest with you, I'll be surprised if they release H-Rap because they really hate him. You know what I'm saying? Because his transformation to Islam, because you know how they demonize Islam in this country. So it's like they see him now as a terrorist for sure, because he's a Muslim. And when he transformed into Islam faith, all the great things he was doing in West and Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? He got the community together, and they started to do for self. They didn't adhere to what the government or the city of Atlanta. Or they did for themselves. They went outside the system. But they had their own. H-Rap had his own grocery store, his own markets. They had their own clothes, food, all the houses. So the western of Atlanta was a whole mini little Africa. A mini little Africa. So they really hated him for that. So they had to get rid of him. So now they're not going to let him out based on that alone.
A lot of what epitomizes what I respect about you is the work that you do, which I think is revolutionary social work, where you educate people on, the resistance to slavery, slave revolts, things like that. And I was wondering, if you might talk about what you do there and where people might be able to find more information or follow you further to want to know more about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that as well, man, because that's my foundation. I always like to tell people that's my foundation to heightening my political consciousness was, just this whole development and going through like just my history as an individual. And a lot of this work started with just tracing my ancestry as well. Like just trying to find out who I am and where I come from, and things of that nature, which I think is very important to our people, what I'm saying, New African people and stuff like that. It's tracing your own, doing your own homework on your own story, what I'm saying, things of that nature. So that's how I really got into all this in the first place. Like even with the New African Independence movement, what I'm saying, this is how I got into it. It's like being a historian, like just searching the history of where I come from here in Virginia and Richmond and things of that nature. Being that Virginia is such a historical place when it comes to, these things when it pertains to slavery, the slave trade, how we got in this, this landmass, how we got into, on Turtle Island and things of that nature. Like just that whole history of Virginia and its connection to our historical, genocide and things of that nature. So yeah, so that led me to, what I'm saying, just studying the history of resistance and seeing the resistance, studying Nat Turner, studying Gabriel Prosser, all these individuals who also get overlooked
Mm.
throughout history and things of that nature. People don't talk about much when they're trying to be educated about this history of this country, and things of that nature and stuff like that. People realizing that they don't know that these slave rebellions took place, these things that we always fought back. We got a historic record of fighting back against the system and slavery, period. You know what I'm saying? So many documented and undocumented stories of slave rebellions and things of that nature. So I just decided to take it upon myself to put this history out. So this is where all that come from, the New Africa History Channel, the New African History period, all predicated on the history of my story here in Virginia and things of that nature. And sometime later on this year, or going into 2026, we actually got a film coming out. We got a movie coming out, a documentary
Nice.
film about the historic African burial grounds that are all over the United States, specifically in the South, but all across the U.S., where they have buried our ancestors without a trace, and things of that nature, no burial markers and things of that nature, stuff like that. So we got one huge project coming out that we're trying to get on all types of platforms, Netflix and things of that nature and stuff like that, that's supposed to be coming out. But it's one Pacific film. That film is predicated on one burial ground that's also tied to a lot of slave resistance as well, a lot of slave rebellions, things of that nature. It's going to be a big project. So I want people to look out for that as well. That's coming out. It's called the Shako Hill African Burial Ground movie, and things of that nature. And it's talking about, it leads up to all that. National liberation, on the new African history, or the African nationalist history period of people fighting for nationhood, what I'm saying, land, independence, all these things that are interconnected in an ecosystem of liberation, and things of that nature. So yeah, be lookout on, be on the lookout for that project. It's going to be big.
What's the best place for people to follow you and stay up to date?
Oh, best place always is to follow me on Instagram, Haki _Kweli _Shakur. All my platforms is under Haki Kweli Shakur. So as soon as you Google me, YouTube, Twitter, I'm on every platform there is. You can go to my website if you want to get straight to, the work that I do pertaining to the history of slave rebellions and things of that nature at New African 77 wordpress.com. That's my personal website where I put all my work on. But you can look at my link tree too, Haki Kweli Shakur on Linktree, and there I got links to everything, anything pertaining to my work, whether it's political prisoners, the New African Independence Movement, the Republic of New Africa, and that history of slave resistance.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I just want to follow up and say there is a lot of information. So all those places that he sent you, you got a lot of information that you can get there. Even that WordPress site, it's a good
Mhm.
place to go and
Yeah,
go
yeah.
and search and see what's up. My last question to you would be, all this work, to me, it goes along with what I was talking about earlier, reconnection. And I wonder, why do you do this work? What does it do for you? I assume that some of the information you find is you find resistance and it charges you up. And some information has got to be hard to find, because you're finding out more negative things about the history and what happened to your people in America and your ancestors and things like that. So, what's the point of it all for you? What are you getting out of it? And like, what do you hope that it gets to others? And I hope that that ties into reconnection.
I just feel like that's my purpose. It's a part of my purpose because I feel like even if we take it to a spiritual aspect, we all have a preordained purpose. You know, a predestined. If you want to call it that, I feel like we all have a purpose and and destiny, and that just ties into uh my birthright. You know what I'm saying? My
Mm.
birthright is liberation. You know what I'm saying? Just doing all this history of my ancestors, even my personal, like you said, like even my personal journey, like finding out who I am, tracking my ancestry, tracking the history of resistance, tracking this work that all ties into, this whole big story of national liberation. I feel like I'm a part of that story of our national liberation as new African people, our nation, the struggle to free our nation, to free our people, period. I feel like it ties into that purpose of why I'm so charged up to do this work. Once I came into this, I didn't understand what my purpose was. You know what I'm saying? It took the elders, it took this journey that I'm still on. The journey ain't even, I'm on the journey now. Like this whole reconnection is just reconnecting myself to a bigger story of my people, which is new African people and freeing our people, whether it's on the continent, whether it's in the diaspora. This whole connection, reconnecting to the diaspora, is a big thing to my whole journey and purpose and stuff like that. Yeah, man, I do this work, man, just solely on liberation. I just want people to get that when it pertains to me. And what I want people to get from that is the fact that it's a chronology of this story, our story is a story of resistance, a story of land, a story of culture, spirituality, all these things that makes us human, to
Mhm.
humanize ourselves. I want the whole human family to learn from me is to humanize yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
if you don't humanize yourself, we're never ever going to change the conditions on this planet. You know what I'm saying? Even all the way down to the way people think. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to think about it. We didn't get this far. We didn't get to this predicament. We didn't get to these days without the way people think and how they change their thoughts. You see what I'm saying? All the way down to our oppressors. You know what I'm saying? Our oppressors have a train of thought that is damaging the human family.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? All the way down to our connection to Earth. You see what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, we not like this the one thing I want people to understand. When we're talking about the new African independence movement, when we're talking about being a nation, when we're talking about freeing our people, we're talking about everybody. We're not just talking about New Africa.
Yeah.
We're talking about the human family. New Africa represents the human family. Me as an individual, I represent the human family. So I can't be free if the human family ain't free. So that's what I want people to take from me is the human rights struggle, the human factor. Because once we put the human back into every individual on this planet, that's when we all will see freedom.
That was so beautifully said because I think a lot of people would look at the New African movement and think that's not for me. I don't need to listen. It's for everybody. It's the human community, the human we all one. And so yeah,
Right.
I couldn't even say it any better than you did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I just say same thing. That was beautiful, man. I mean, I
Mhm.
couldn't ask for a better ending to the podcast, and I'm looking forward to getting this out there and
Mhm.
sharing it with other people. But
Yeah, because that's what it's about. At the
Mhm.
end of the day, that's why we all do this work. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Once people understand that part alone, and in closing, that's the greatest thing I learned from Matulu because
Mm.
that's how he taught it. You see what I'm saying? Like even the new African independence movement, like it's about the human family, brother. It's about the human family, sister. You know what I'm saying? All these things are connected. People keep separating. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's why we never get nowhere because people keep trying to separate things they don't understand. That's why you gotta teach yourself to understand it. Like, no, man, that's the greatest thing I learned from Matulu. And I try to take what Matulu taught me, that's what I want to leave with the generations that's coming behind me. That my work is based on that human liberation.
Thank you.
yeah, all I got to say is much respect to you. Thankful that we had the connection of the Dr. Matulu Shakur to connect us
Yes,
and
sir, brother. Always,
to
man.
Mhm.
Always, man. We family. Shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We got Matulu home. You know what I'm saying? Even though it was for a short period of time, man, all us played a role in him getting to live those days outside that damn wall.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he was thankful for that. He couldn't stop thanking people. You know what I'm saying? Even though it was a short time, but we got him out. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like we always gonna be connected, brother and sister. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
don't care. You know what I mean? We got the man out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Hey, well, like I said, much respect and love to you, Haki. I
Mhm.
thank you
Yes.
for taking the time out of your day to talk to us and anybody that's going to be watching it. But just much respect to you, man. You epitomize what revolutionary social work is about, and I think it goes with our 10th value that social work happens outside the so-called profession that we have today, which just really reduces it and minimizes it. Like I said, you just epitomize revolutionary social work. So just thank you for taking the time, but also thanks for being you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I thank y'all, man. And I just appreciate every time y'all bring me on the platform. I enjoy these conversations, man, because I know it's gonna reach people. I know it's, what I mean? It's gonna wake the people up that it's supposed to wake up. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day. So, man, I just want to thank y'all. Continue doing what y'all doing. Like y'all one of my favorite podcasts, man.
Mhm.
I'm gonna just put it out there. Like I'm always looking at the clips. I'm always learning something new from your guests. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. So don't think I ain't watching and I ain't learning. I'm definitely watching. I'm a fan.
Yeah,
We love you for
appreciate
that.
you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm grateful I could be in your energy as well today. So even though it didn't work out last week, I was able to be here today. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you
I
so
appreciate it.
much.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
we'll keep doing the work and we'll stay connected.
Yeah, we're
Peace.
staying connected.
All right. Take care.
All right. Enjoy y'all day.
You too.
All right.
You've been listening to the Revolutionary Social Work Podcast, and we just want to say thank you for your continued support. You can catch us on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify. Remember to like and subscribe, and don't forget to share our content with the world. But most of all, never forget to keep being revolutionary. Peace.